Welcome back to the Top Agent Podcast. I am one half your hosting team, Ryan Espy, and I am joined as usual by Stacy Regula. How are you doing, Stacy?
I am great. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Hanging in there. Before
Yeah.
we get going and talk about what we got to talk about, do us all a favor. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit like on this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to this on wherever you listen to podcasts, a 5-star rating is appreciated. It really helps our rankings in the searches. So please go ahead and do that. Stacy, how's the week been for you?
It has been busy, which is nice. I picked up a potential for sale by owner. She was considering listing herself, but I went to give her a price on her home and she hired me on the spot. So got that listing up and running. I think it's really important to discuss with your clients the pros and cons of selling by themselves. So it wasn't hard to get the listing once she realized how much she'd have to do on her own. So that was,
Yeah, just to put it in context, we are in May of 2023. So wherever you're listening to this, that is what's happening in May of 23. The market is picking up, the spring market. I have been super busy. People seem a lot less friendly these days, though I will say that.
yes.
I think people are looking for reasons to be angry, and they're finding them. Everything from I had a client tell me, well, I had a double ender. So for those listening that don't know what that means, is I'm representing both the buyers and the sellers. So the buyers, their bank holds up the process of financing approval. So we have to put in an extension for a few days. And the sellers who have had their house listed off and on for a year got really upset that they had to wait a couple more days and told me they better not be anticipating any more surprises. I felt like saying, well, if you knew they were coming, they wouldn't be surprises, would they?
But
But I held back and I said, understood. I will do my best to make sure there are no more challenges in this deal. Now, big news for eXp in Manitoba. We have launched in Brandon.
yes.
So if you are a Brandon agent and you're looking to explore a new opportunity, please give us a call. Either
Yes.
myself or Stacy, we will guide you through the process. We will give you information, and we have a no pressure approach to agent attraction. We want people to come because they want to come, not because they were recruited.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of that happening lately, especially with another company that has opened up in Manitoba, has been going hard recruiting.
Yes.
If you can't attract someone to your model by its own merits, uh, the people that you are convincing to come over may not be happy or stay for the long haul.
Yes. You have to see the value in the company and in the team that you're joining. And when I say team, it's in a non-traditional sense with eXp. But basically, we'll put the put what we have in front of you, and you make your decisions. So
Yeah. And the old saying goes, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
no, you
So
can't.
the challenge is bridging that gap between a willingness to look at something or not, and that's it.
Yes.
Because the model kind of sells itself, and it makes a lot of sense in this day and age.
Yes.
Things are going, but
And there's actually a lot of people that have been telling me they see the value in our model, but they're comfortable where they are. And
yeah.
to that, I say that being comfortable is not going to get you anywhere.
Well, everyone from Steve Harvey to Gary V to Brent Gove to every mogul that has ever been successful, right up to Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins, will tell you the same thing.
Yep.
The magic happens outside the comfort zone.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, we got a great guest coming up, Tina Beliveau. She is an amazing agent from Baltimore. She has a new podcast, which you can find in the description of this video.
Yes.
Check out all of her stuff. Go through that video description. And anything else
Yeah.
before we get going, Stacy?
Yeah, if you're looking to learn how to market yourself on Facebook, this is the episode to listen to. So,
Awesome. Tina, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
joining us. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Stacy. We cut each other off all the time, but
Yeah.
it's part of our shtick.
Good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get right into it. We kind of want to know the story of all the realtors, so we get back into your backstory a little bit. So, can you talk to us a little bit about life growing up and what life was like before you started your career in real estate?
Oh, it's funny because I've been in the industry 19 years now, and I feel like my story has gotten long and winding. But before real estate, I've just always been a highly creative and entrepreneurial person. When I was like 5 years old, I like set up a store in my living room and sold my family's food back to them. So that was my beginnings. And I was born in 1985. So like when I don't know in the early 90s, like my dad is like an engineer, total like tech nerd. So he would bring home like we had a computer before everybody and stuff like that, VHS camera. So early on, I was just really into like media, filming, being the star, and then that was just sort of my life story. I was a dancer, a cheerleader, a leader, and real estate's been a great industry to kind of funnel my passions.
Nice. So
Yeah.
what took you into real estate then? Like what was your starting point?
Kismet and randomness. My freshman year in college, I was studying to be a math major of all things. I thought I wanted to be a teacher and I love to teach, which is really what has kind of come full circle for me. But I got offered a job as an assistant to a really successful agent in my market. And I started working for her when I was 18. I got my license when I was 19, and I've never looked back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is your market?
I'm in the Baltimore metro market in Maryland. And I'm born and raised here. Maybe we'll talk about this later, but I've been doing some really creative things on Facebook to kind of like geo target the
Yes.
neighborhood and the subdivision that I like to work in.
We are definitely going to get into that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll come
I
back.
have taken your advice on that. So
Okay, good. That's the teaser. Keep listening.
yeah.
So, did you spend the bulk of your career at one brokerage?
No, I started at what I lovingly call an old and crusty brokerage in 2005. No training. I mean, I don't know. It was just terrible. No mentoring whatsoever. And then I kind of, our industry is, how long have you guys been in the business?
7 years for me.
Okay. And Stacy?
3.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're like in the newest iteration, but it's crazy how much has happened in 20 years. Like back in 2005, it was just all old and crusty brokers, and there weren't any like disruptive brokers. The internet was still really new as far as like lead generation. There were no revenue sharing. Keller Williams existed, but not in my market, which is where I ultimately ended up. And there was no emphasis on training or education either. So I kind of suffered through. My first broker was really just did not set me up for success, and I don't blame them, but it's a fact. And then I eventually moved to a broker that was also kind of old and crusty, but I had a great manager, and she taught me a lot about how to be a really good real estate agent. And Alicia, I'm just so grateful to her. Then I worked at a boutique kind of local company that had like a really good commission model, but didn't have any training or education or other benefits. Found my way into Keller Williams. And that was where my, kind of career and education in the brokerage world really took off. I actually took a 3-year hiatus from selling homes to build and run 3 franchises in the Baltimore market. So learned a lot, recruited over 1,000 agents over the course of 3 years to those offices, and ultimately got super burned out for a bunch of reasons. So at the beginning of 2020, I took a huge step back from like everything I'd been doing, decided to come back to just running my team, go super simple, streamlined, virtual, joined eXp, and it's been an incredible fit for me for like a zillion reasons. And we could talk about that if you want, but I've been a little bit of everywhere, and I can't imagine needing to ever be anywhere else at this point.
I guess the question I have is, what was the thing that drew you into eXp?
Yes.
You know, it really ties into what I said to you in the beginning about like who I was as a child, which sounds a little woo-woo, but like, you know, at the end of 2019, I knew that I needed to leave KW and that I needed to do something different. And I was just trying to get in touch with like, who am I really? Because I think in real estate, it's so easy to get caught up in opportunities that are awesome, but don't necessarily make sense for you. And I was like, what do I really want to be doing? And, you know, what came up was like, I love social media, working in the online space, teaching, educating, like influencing. Like, I don't identify with that term, but that's kind of like, but I am an influencer. Like, I like to help people. I want to make a meaningful impact. I want to do it at scale. So for me, seeing eXp as a vehicle to run my team and have it be a great place to run the Beliveau group and have things be super sustainable and efficient, but also to like build a platform that was about me and my goals instead of my brokerage, which is really what happened in my last company. I was like, this is my way to kind of have a little bit of all of it. And, you know, my team provides a lot of my like economic engine and stability and my credibility as a teacher. And then I get to have all my like creativity and fun on top of that. So it has been an amazing 3 years in my life in a lot of ways. And coming to eXp was part of the like very beginning of all the decisions that really pushed me over the edge in a good way.
So how has your business changed as a realtor joining eXp? Like, did you dive into revenue share? Are you growing that way? Yeah.
Yeah, to some degree. When I came to eXp, I had a really serious non-compete, non-solicitation technically. So I didn't recruit the way some people do. Although I do have a really healthy downline just through sort of organic means and what's kind of come along over the years. So candidly, I recruited so much during my KW days that it was nice to take a little bit of a breather and let things just become a lot more attraction based. So the revenue sharing group that I have is called Empower. It's very feminine, and that's one of my huge things is, you know, female empowerment. So very like Maryland centric. We've got a lot of really great producers that are just friends of mine and people that just want to be associated, not just with me, but with each other. We help each other out a lot, have a really great, just sort of like dynamic, like a community cohort.
Yeah.
So that's been a piece of my story. But what's been even more fun is last year I launched a coaching course that is like sort of a high-end immersive. I call it like steal my stuff. Like I'm a systems driven person. I'm like a marketing Swiss Army knife. I know a lot and I have a lot of like media talent and branding and things like that. And people are always like, how do you do this? And how do you do that? So what was so nice about creating a course was to be able to help anyone who needed help from me, regardless of what their brokerage was, and kind of like taking recruiting off the table. So the course has been really successful. I've now had 2 rounds of it. And I'm about to have a baby. You can't see my baby belly, but it's huge. I'm due in 3 weeks. And then I'll be back in the fall and kind of retooling that. And I am going to also like open that up as part of like my revenue sharing of people like, you know, you can just, I want to be able to help people in a variety of ways that works really well for them, but also works really well and sustainably for me, because that was not, I've not always had my business in a sustainable place, partially because of the brokerage I was with, and then partially because I didn't understand how to do that for a long time. I was used to doing things the hard way. I don't know if you guys relate to that at all, but
Yeah.
eXp has been my chance to be like, wait, how can everything be easier and
Yeah.
win-win for everybody?
Yeah, we definitely both kind of went through something similar, which is unique. But I do have a question about the are you part of Power Girls then with eXp, or is that
I mean, I'm aware of Power Girls. I have
yeah,
not engaged at a deep level.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
tell me more.
we actually have the central coordinator for regional coordinator for Canada on our downline, and so I think there's like every Wednesday, but you should definitely look at, you know, talking about your Facebook stuff in there, because I took your course during the Realtor Week, and yeah, I really liked it. So if you want to maybe tell us a bit about that.
Well, thank you. And thanks for the tip, because I feel like there's so many like places to tap into eXp.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of icon teaching, and yeah, going into those groups is like the next level. So thank you.
Yeah.
My wheels turning. And the strategy that I've been teaching a lot of is, I call it building a digital geographic farm through Facebook groups.
Yeah.
I've always been a referral and organic social media person. Between me and my team members, we've done 400 million in volume, over 1,700 units over the last like 15 years. And that's always been like referrals and relationships. However, you were kind of asking like how eXp has changed my business. With the combination of joining eXp and then also, the start of the pandemic and just needing to pivot so much more of what I did from in-person to online was sort of the engine behind that. And I had my first child in 2021 and now another one now. So I'm not out in the world meeting new people nearly as much as I used to be. So I decided to go really hard on building a Facebook group that focuses on the geographic area that I live in. I love working in this area. There's a lot of like housing stock variety, lots of demand. People like the schools. I could go on and on, but like those are all reasons that are like good reasons to pick an area to farm in, like because then you get the great listings and everything just builds on itself. So I've spent the last like year and a half fine-tuning that strategy. We've sold a bunch of homes from it. And really what excites me too is the potential, because I'm just like starting to scale the group and even like tinker with what strategies work the best, just like anything, I'm still figuring it out, but it's very effective. I can do it from anywhere. I've even leveraged someone to keep running the group while I'm on maternity leave. And it's, I couldn't send people to network for me, but I can definitely have someone message people for me and post for me. So
Nice.
Yeah,
we'll definitely share in the description where they can find your training.
Yeah, like I have a recorded video on it that's like an hour long for anyone that wants to like deep dive. There's like a video and a playbook that accompanies it. And it's been very cool. I've heard from more people about this strategy than almost anything else I teach, because it's free, it's doable. I make it pretty easy to understand. And I've heard from a lot of people that have launched groups in the last few months. So
Yeah, I just did one and I called it the like basically the school division is the area that I used, because I was trying to figure out how to get the area. And I got to do the first draw because you suggested doing a giveaway.
Giveaways are everything. So yeah, do that next. That's like your next best thing for
sure. Nice.
So we're gonna go off on a bit of a we'll stay with this subject.
Okay.
Loosely, because I would like to know what you feel about social media in general, multi-platform. What kind of activity or what kind of role do you feel it plays in real estate now?
I mean, it's huge. I think that you can definitely succeed without social media. You just need to have other strategies that are really solid and comprehensive. The beauty of social media is, it's what everybody already knows, but it's so efficient. You can have such a high reach. It's free. Time has value. So I think it's actually easy to like get caught up in creating a lot of content and not measure how much time it's really taking you, and then to trim and focus on the things that are actually difference makers. But for me, I can't imagine my business would crumble without. It would be greatly incredibly less productive in every way as far as like transactions. We are really, and when I say we, it's mostly me, because I drive most of the marketing for our team. I'm really focused on organic Facebook, my profile, and my groups. I don't do much with pages, which is a common question people get from me. And then I've spent a fair amount of time building my Instagram presence and my following, which has definitely borne fruit. Ironically, one of the things I say in my Facebook group class is like, I spent a lot of time on Instagram for a few years and was just sort of ignoring how I already had a gold mine in my Facebook. And I think depending on how old you are and what your target market is, that could resonate for you as well. So I kind of re-engaged my Facebook in a new way. And that's enough for me. I think the other platforms are awesome, like TikTok, etc. I don't have time to do that many things. And I am a big believer in like, I'll do one or two things really, really well. So that's kind of my mindset on social media.
That's great. What advice would you give newer agents looking to grow their real estate business in this time?
The first thing I just want to say is it's really hard to be a new real estate agent. It looks a lot easier than it is. So I think I was like slapped into reality because I got my license in 2005. I graduated from college in 2007. And that's when I went solo, I went full time. And then I was like, whoa, this is hard. I'm not an overnight success. It was very disappointing. But I have persistence on my side, which is why I'm still here. And I think like that's a big thing is like, I hear from a lot of people who don't have a sphere for a lot of reasons. They're young, they're selling homes in an area they haven't even lived in very long. There's a lot of reasons people feel like they just don't have a big enough database. So that's where I really like to like start is for me. Well, first of all, I guess you need to evaluate like, how are you going to grow your business realistically? Like, do you have it in you to prospect, and in what way? And if not, are you going to be referral based? Are you going to buy internet leads? I mean, there's sort of like limitless options, but they also all fall into like a couple buckets of just like behavior, personality type, and how motivated you are and how needy you are to like generate income like really, really quickly. So I think it's like, you've got to know yourself. And you may not know much about the industry, but you need to be really real with yourself about who you are and what you're really going to do with some consistency. And then from there, get into daily action. And depending on, what method you choose, the actions can look really, really different. But for me in the beginning, it was just meeting people, building the habit of growing a database. And when I say growing a database, I think if you're new, you're like, well, what the heck does that mean? And I'm like, it means like getting people's contact information and putting it in your CRM, and then like communicating with them on a regular basis and figuring out like through what methods are you going to do that? Are you going to be a big texter? Are you going to call people? Are you going to post on social a lot? Are you going to send out, really great emails? Are you going to mail people? You don't need to do all those things. I mean, if you do, that's really, really effective. But I think in the beginning, I just got in touch with the fact that I needed to build a database, build relationships, and I had tons of time to spare. So like early on, I just helped people however I could. Like I cut my teeth in the market going like this. So like 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in Baltimore and pretty much everywhere else in the United States, home values were just going down and down. So like one of my things was helping people get their property taxes assessed because they might have had an assessment of 400 and their house was now only worth 300. So I just did things to build rapport and goodwill and relationships. And it has yielded so much business over the years. That's probably not a tip for today. It's like the opposite problem. But like in the beginning, if you have a lot of time and energy to spare, like the question I would pose to you is like, how can you give? How can you do something meaningful to help someone else? It might be as simple as seeing that someone has a need on Facebook and making the effort to connect them with like the babysitter that they can't find or the contractor, and just being a connector and a giver and a helper. And that just comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah,
That is pretty interesting advice, because realtors that are struggling right now should sometimes realize that maybe there were harder times, and that era that you just talked about was one of them, and you found a way to be successful.
Yeah, but I will say it's been, the market has really adjusted here in Maryland. Like we're definitely having like a spring burst again, but it's hard when, less and less units are transacting across the country. And one of the things that I've said to, all the people I coach is like, if you have a database of 100 people and in a normal year, you would get, 10 transactions out of that, just using some like really simple numbers. We're in a climate where right now, maybe only 5 of those transactions are going to happen in 2023 because more people are sticking and staying because they don't want to give up their good interest rate, or the interest rates don't work for them, or they do have an affordability issue. Like it's just factual. And then the question is, okay, like what are you going to do about it? Like, and in my feeling, I could like work my database a little harder, but like people are either moving or not moving, and they have referrals or they don't. So my strategy has really been more about expanding the number of relationships while still maintaining the quality of communication. But I think it's hard to make that kind of adjustment if you've been working in this market in the last few years where there were just more people with a want or a need to transact. And I think 2023 is, I'm not a big believer in like limiting beliefs or, oh, it has to be hard. But I think the dynamics of this year, it requires a little more creativity and proactivity to find the transactions. than the last few years. And I've had to adjust my behavior, my systems, my expectations, and I'm seeing the same for a lot of the people around me.
Yes, I agree.
Yep. Well, you have a podcast that has started.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, coming back to like all my dreams of like being creative and not just being like tied down to transactions. So I launched my academy last year, which is called the High Performance Agent Academy. And now I have a podcast called the High Performance Agent Podcast with Tina Beliveau. So it just came out. I've got a couple episodes out and new ones dropping every Monday. And it's a big mix of tactics, literal like how-tos. Here's what I'm doing right now. A lot of my story. I've done some different real estate investing, different things to unpack with that, flips, renovations. So just all the things I've seen in the field from the viewpoint of an ambitious agent who has also had a big realignment in her work-life balance and priorities after kind of 20 years in the industry of being like, you know what? You can achieve really big things in real estate. And I love that. And that's what keeps me coming back. And at the same time, quality of life is huge. And like, how do you, weave together your version of success or what I call high performance? Because there was a point where I was naming the podcast and people were like, call it like the top seller or the biggest producer and like number one, like all that stuff. And I'm like, that's the old me. Like, I like that stuff. I like to be number one. But what I really lose sleep over is the quality of my life or how well my clients are really being treated through the process with my team. Like there's a lot more nuance to what success feels like for me. And it took me some major, like getting knocked around to realize that like on an actual level and not just like a conceptual level. So it was important to me to like communicate that. I mean, no one's going to read into my podcast name that much, but like, that's really where I'm coming from is it's a blend of how to do things well and be really profitable and have tons of abundance, but also a great life in every other way.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited. Tune in, please check it out. It's on all the
I
platforms.
I will check it out. I like to listen to podcasts while I'm driving, so
there will be a link to the show in the video description. So if you're listening to this, go into the description and click that link.
Yes, we'll have the podcast link and then also the if you want to hear more about digital geographic farming, that's been the hit of 2023. I just keep talking about it everywhere I go.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It does, yeah.
Awesome.
So we're going to get into a little bit off-topic questions here, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
Favorite movie of all time?
Didn't see that coming.
I'm so not a movie person. I'm a TV person. Spice World. That tells you everything you need to know about
me.
me.
I have that one.
Ryan, do you even know what I'm talking about?
I sure do.
Oh, okay.
You have it too, Ryan?
I do not, but I am aware of it.
I have it on VHS.
Obviously, it honestly might be on my shelf. So yeah.
It's like one of the ones you just couldn't get rid of. No.
100%. Yep.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're not doing real estate?
Ooh. I mean, I just love hanging out with my son. He's almost 2 and so cute. I mean, who doesn't think their own child is the cutest in the world? So I would say that. And then like for me, I just love spinning. I actually like spin classes like on a bike. I actually became a spin instructor after my big realignment in 2020 and realizing I just wanted to have fun and like feed some of my interests outside of real estate. And that's just been this random thing. I teach one spin class a week and it's just this extra thing I do.
What kind of spin bike do you have?
Yeah.
What kind of spin bike do you have?
So I don't have a Peloton. I actually don't have a bike. I just teach at the studio. They use just sort of like professional bikes.
Nice.
And I teach like to the beat because I've got that like cheerleader background. So a lot of like, here's how fast to go, match the music.
I always found that I did spin for a while, but had to stop. And I always found it so hard when they're like, ride to the beat. I'm like, I am not coordinated for this.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. So you either like riding to the beat or you don't. And that is true.
Ride until I, die. That's about it, basically.
Yeah. I always say that's fine too. Take what you like and leave the rest of my instructions.
What book has had the most influence on you?
Ooh, I would say like a formative book that I read when I was finishing high school was The Four Agreements. Have either of you read it?
I have it sitting on my shelf as the next up.
Oh, great. So you're going to love it. I mean, I don't want to butcher explaining it, but it's just sort of like the wisdom of the ages of how to be a responsible, good person. I don't know. I read it at a time where I really needed some of the messages in the book, and it was very impactful of even just like understanding that the words that I say have power. One thing that I remember about the book is it gets into this thing about like, don't plant a negative seed. Like, if you're about to meet someone and then I go, oh, she's nice, but
Yeah.
it's like this, like realizing that like your words can just be poison and like harnessing the power of that for good, taking extreme responsibility for your life and your choices. I was kind of a mess in high school. That's a whole other podcast. My parents sent me to the wilderness to get my act together.
Oh,
And I read the book there, and it was such like a, and when you're a teenager, you're in, generally not in the most personally responsible mindset. At least I wasn't. But just like really connecting dots of, wow, like my choices have led me here, literally. And how could that be different? And that has guided me to this day. My life is not perfect. However, I have enjoyed a lot of success in a lot of different dimensions of life because of what I learned in those like formative moments of like, you get to choose, and you can like make great decisions and really, form good habits and be a kind person, and the world rewards that. Or you can keep doing what I was doing, which was not leading me anywhere productive. So
you made it.
yeah, I did. Yeah. But Four Agreements,
Nice.
fantastic book.
Yeah, we've got a long list of books to read.
Yeah. Not too
What is
long. So
yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
what is the single best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So you guys did warn me you were going to ask this question, and I wanted to, and I'm glad you did, because I don't even know who to attribute this piece of advice to exactly, although it's sort of a mix of things. Part of it would probably have come from a friend of mine named Vlad. He had me read another book called The Big Leap.
Oh,
Are
I've
you
heard of
guys
that
familiar
one.
with that?
Mhm.
Yeah. And at least the way it was a while ago that I read it, but the kind of what I took from it was like really figuring like out what your zone of genius is and working towards that. And I read that as I was preparing to like change brokerages, ended up selecting eXp and all that kind of stuff. And then since then, someone introduced me to the concept of human design. Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
It sort of has like an astrology, well, not sort of, it has an astrology sort of like background of sort of like where were you born and what time, and then you're this type of person. Whether that is like valid or not, the type that I supposedly am, like understanding that has given me so much freedom. I'm called a manifesting generator. All that being said, what it gave me permission was to realize that I am a highly creative person who needs a lot of variety and movement and constant change. And for a lot of my career, like I jumped brokerages like multiple times over like a 5-year period. And I could give you examples of other patterns where, to the outside observer, it might look like I was inconsistent or not sticking with anything or whatever the case may be. And now I've just really given myself permission to embrace who I am. In the last 3 years, I changed brokerages, became a spin instructor, decided to start a family, flipped my first house, bought an Airbnb, retooled a lot with my team, which that might sound like a list of accomplishments, but like the way I used to look at myself was like that I needed to like follow a path and be really dedicated, and that was the way to succeed. And today I just look at it so differently of, I don't want to be so all over the place that nothing makes sense or I have no consistency whatsoever, but just like this deeper level of inner trust that I've developed, that these little signs that I get, not all of the signs that I get are like the right direction for me to start walking in, but to start being a lot more discerning about that and giving myself permission to pursue those things that give me energy, and also giving myself permission to quit and cut the stuff that I thought was a good idea but is draining me.
Yeah.
And I think if you're the kind of person that like, oh, if I gave my word, so I'm going to follow through for the next, 5 years, that's kind of how I'm wired. But those were the things that kept me really drained and caused me to have the burnout that I did. So basically, I would recap it all to say, if you're hearing anything that kind of resonates with you, just Google human design. You can like take a little quiz and read about it. And I feel like personal insights can just be really powerful, especially if they just, I don't know, give you some answers or even just some peace of mind about why you are the way you are.
That's interesting. I'm going to check it out, writing it down.
All right. That's your Google assignment for the day.
Yeah.
Well, Tina, that was excellent. And we thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great talking with you guys. And I'm here. Anyone who wants to connect with me, you'll see all the links to do it. And I'm also, like I said, pretty active on Instagram. You can find me at Tina Beliveau.
Nice.
We will find you, and we will post some links in the video description again. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And good luck with the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And like and subscribe for more, everybody.
That's right.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.